Hey! Oh my god, that last session, I for me, it was really great. I was in Brian's room talking about leadership, a topic that you guys all know is near and dear to my heart. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it, but not as much as our speaker for now. Oh my god, where do I start with her? So when I first met our speaker today, uh, it was very hard to miss her. She was walking around an event with a big rhinestone sparkly hat and also a lot of people gravitating around her, right? Just the energy that she would bring and the ability to command a room. And as I got to know her, she was helping a little startup that came out of an MSP called Imibot. And Imibot was really challenging the status quo. And it was neat to see someone trying to fix a problem, but do it a little bit differently, right? We all thought RMM was the way. And it turns out, well, that was sort of true. And I'm not gonna lie when I say that I think she is a large part of their success because she is an amazing person. She knows how to command a team, and she is accountable. I like this individual so much that she was fortunate to win one of my 3 accountability bats this year because she just really embodies what our community really means in the most positive and optimistic, perspective. So, with that being said, everybody, let's go ahead and hit the heart buttons. Let's hit the clap buttons. I'm going to go ahead and bring on our speaker today, Tara Romer.
Hi. Hi, Kyle. That was way too nice of an introduction, to be fair here, bud. How are you?
I tried, I want to get you hyped up. Everyone's so ready for this. I'm excited to see your perspective on a topic that we both really enjoy. And with that being said, I'm going to get the hell out of here and let you do your
Okay.
thing.
Bye. All right. Hopefully he gives me my slide deck too, because he has to put it on stage. Hi, friends. So we are talking today about leading up without freaking everyone out. Oh, that's weird. I'm over there now. Navigating the challenges of influencing upward. So the TLDR here, gonna try to give you some tips to not piss off your boss. That's it. Pretty straightforward stuff, right? So let's get going here. We've got who am I? I don't know who's in here. I didn't look because that's terrifying to me to know who's actually watching me speak. So, hi if you know me, and hi if you don't. I'm Tara Rummer Ashley. I am MSP channel captain for Emibot, just like Kyle said. And before that, I worked for our MSP called Immense Networks out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So I started there as an admin assistant, and I basically knew nothing about anything within the MSP space. I have an art history degree. So I know how to talk to people, I know how to work with people, and I know how to write really well. So I ended up just kind of learning the MSP space by jumping in and being tossed in the deep end here. And I ended up as VP of operations, so our COO role throughout. I mean, I guess it took quite a few years to get there, but we went from a break fix shop to a full fledged MSP, and it is thriving. And we used our profit to actually spin off Emibot. So we've never taken money, and we're really proud of that. And a lot of that has to do with how our leaders work together and how we just moved everything forward. So let's move on. Who am I? Oh, I guess I should have shown this. So this is me, and these are the two owners of the companies. So Brett is in the middle, and then Darren is on the right. So they have known each other since seventh grade when they became friends because of terrifying. Oh God, these pop-ups are gonna throw me off, Kyle. So basically, they've been friends since seventh grade, and they got into this business not to run a business, right? So I think that's important to remember. And they needed to offset, you know, their skills in tech with people who could do these things that maybe they weren't great at. So, what to expect from my talk today? You're going to see a lot of bullet points. I don't like having too many words on a screen. I mean, you'll see some words, obviously. You're going to hear stories from me. You're going to hear a lot of personal thoughts. You're going to get reassurance you are not alone. And number 5 is my favorite. This is not rocket surgery. Nothing I'm going to tell you today is probably going to be groundbreaking new things that you didn't know, but it's a good reminder. And when you tie it to stories, it just becomes a little more personal, right? So, what is leading up? That is the practice of influencing or managing upward by guiding those in higher positions. Pretty self explanatory. If you are, say, a service manager, you are likely leading up to your director of operations. And sometimes that's really scary. And you have to have these really hard conversations. I know it because I am an integrator and I have to work with two visionaries. We don't speak the same language most of the time, right? So that's what leading up is all about. It's finding that middle ground and making sure everything's getting moved forward together. Why is this important? I love this. I was really proud of myself for making this little meme. This is really the entrepreneurial journey in the MSP space from everyone I've spoken to. People help their friends with their computers. Then they help their friends with their computers. And then somebody randomly says, I mean, I would pay you for this. And your boss probably went, oh shit, did I just start a business? It happens. People keep trying to get me to make a business out of my sparkly hats, and I keep pushing back. It would be the exact same thing, right? I do this because I love it and I'm passionate about it, and then I realize I can make money with it. So you have to remember your owners have started this on their own, and they have usually, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but first year in business, first few years, they probably didn't make any money. And so they are very tied to this. It's their livelihood. It's been their livelihood for however long, right? So that's part of the challenge with leading up because there's some boundaries there and people worry that you're going to overstep those boundaries. You can have misaligned goals. I mean, think about when I came on with Immense Networks, we had 6 people on staff. Like if all of our goals weren't aligned, we couldn't have grown. And now that we have 2 companies that have about 40 people, if we're out of alignment, that creates so many issues, right? Fear of hidden motives and change. People hate change. I need everybody to just accept that right now. Change is great. I hate change as well. It's scary, but we don't do things the same way that we did yesterday because it's not going to get us to where we want to be tomorrow, right? So we have to change. We have to adapt. We have to improve our skills, our processes, and all of those things that come with it, right? And then there's power dynamic struggles. So I'm sure we can talk about this at length. If anybody has ever met my boss, Darren, he and I butt heads a lot. And a lot of that within the MSP came from he was the overseer of everything, right? And when you put somebody in a role that's maybe never been there, or maybe they're not technical and other people think they should be technical, that happened with us, or you're just not used to giving up the reins. That can cause a problem. And within our own MSP, it would be like mom and dad were fighting because they didn't like mom answer. So they went to dad there. And then it caused issues within just the two of us. And we had learned to work that out. And some of that was me leading up, and some of that was him having to understand where I was coming from, right? And then we have creating dependency. You don't want the owners or your bosses to not be able to make their own decisions. They shouldn't have to rely on you because then you're going to overwhelm yourself. There needs to be very consistent boundaries on what they can decide versus what you should decide, right? And tone and delivery. This has become a bigger issue, I feel like, within the past few years, right? Since COVID. I know I hate talking about it, but it's so true because so many of us work remote at this point, right? And I'm sitting here in our MSP office. I can walk in and go talk to the service manager, Kayla, and she can see my body language. She can see how, my day is. She can see that I'm smiling or if I'm upset. It's very easy to read body language when you're physically in front of somebody. But if you're behind a camera or you're just chatting on Teams, it is so hard to actually have a real conversation that doesn't get misconstrued, right? Roddy just said, no one will remember what you did. They will remember how you made them feel. Yes, that is exactly it. And I'll be honest, I'm gonna tell you stories. I've fallen on my face with this because I'm a very fiery and heated person. So it is part of my process to freak out and explode and get really upset and need to walk away for a minute. And then in 20 minutes, I'm fine, right? And it's something that I've definitely tried to adjust. Clearly, it's not good to explode at work, But it's also something where I had the talk with Brett and Darren, and I'm like, "Listen, this is, part of who I am, and I'm working on it, but I need you guys to work with me on it," right? So it's just having that open communication, that clarity that helps with those tone and delivery problems. And memes, big meme sender and big happy face sender. So this stuff is a lot less scary with a little prep work, though, right? And I have 8 things here, right? Dynamics, communication, support, respect, value, influence, perspective, and congratulations. Guess what? You're leading up successfully and probably not fighting with your boss or feeling like a failure, hopefully. So, understand the dynamics. How you go about this is you have to assess that relationship with your boss. So, everybody has a different leadership style, and they're on the next few pages. I'm not going to have time to jump into all of them in depth, but I do have a power or PDF that you guys can have that's got all the info on it. But you have to learn how they communicate, right? I am a big fan of meeting people where they are and not where I think they should be. So, this happened, oh gosh, this was a while ago, but when I was running the MSP, I was frustrated about something, and the 2 owners are very different people, right? So I knew how to talk to them both, but I had misremembered basically who I was talking to, and I very aggressively went at Brett with something, and I had to walk back into his office and tell him I was sorry because that was a conversation I was prepared to have with Darren. So I did not match his communication style, and that did not go well. But I was also very quick to, take a step back and go, "Oh no, I was definitely in the wrong here." And we talked through it, and he was very understanding. So that was lovely. But you have to go in with some care, right? And make sure that you're trying to talk in the way that they are going to receive the best. You need to clarify your goals. Everyone has priorities and everyone has objectives. But something I've noticed is that when they're out of alignment or you're not in regular communication, it creates mistrust and it creates confusion. And I mean, I've seen people be fired at companies about it. Like, you don't know what that person's doing. So you just assume they're doing nothing. So clarifying where everybody stands. Oh no, something just happened. Someone's touching stuff. So clarifying those goals and aligning the priorities are and key objectives are of the utmost importance because everything should be playing into that. And go back and review them together regularly. Ronnie, stop touching stuff. So something else you need to do is you need to identify their strengths because you're coming in and you're doing all these amazing things, but they still need to know that they are needed and that they have your support in doing what they're best at, right? Got to make sure the business everyone is working on is the same business. Yes. Yes. 100%. And for people who don't go back and look at those vision and values regularly, I suggest doing that because they change over time. And we're going to go to the next slide before Kyle takes my stuff off the screen again. So here is the traditional leadership styles. So I'm not going to dig into these. You can take the PDF. You can read them. That's so funny. Sorry. You'll be able to read it and just if you have questions about it, I've done a lot of research into this because I wanted to know my own leadership style and I found it really changes with who I'm leading, right? There are some people within our organizations I can be very loose goose, laissez faire with, hands off. And I have actually had to have this conversation when we hired Anna in January. I went to her because I gave her these overarching goals for the year. And I said, all right, I want your input on how we're going to get there. And we've really worked together on this stuff, but it's been mostly hands off. And I was like, if you need me to be more hands on, just let me know. This is how I like to be led. I like to know that top line goal and just let me run with it. So we've got these ones. We've got transformational, transactional, situational. And then so you'll adapt to whoever's around you. So sometimes you're going to fall into the situational one. Totally, totally normal. I don't like transactional, but that's just me. I am much more like touchy feely, peoply, not physically touching feeling, but I don't like that I do this so that you'll do this thing for me. That is just not really how I like to lead. And that's not how I like to be led, right? You also have emerging styles. So we have charismatic, visionary, and coaching. So visionary is definitely a big one for the two owners of our company. They know those long-term goals. They can see that forest and not the trees. So they are big on innovating, and everyone else kind of has to fall in there and figure out how to make all that stuff happen, right? But at the same time, if you think about it, I mean, our average right now for a staff member is something like 8 to 10 years, I think. So we all feel inspired by these people and we believe in that common goal and we know that we can meet those challenges together, right? But there are weaknesses, so you can struggle with day-to-day operational focus. So we have, I mean, I already said it. I am not a visionary. I am an integrator, and the two owners are visionaries. So they had to hire for that deficit, right? Somebody who was very operationally focused, who could help build those processes. We hire for what we need. We don't want a replica of who we already have, right? Because nobody's going to grow if we do that. Next is we have the other styles. So we have servant leader. This is so great. If you have not read The Go Giver, go read it. I love that book. It's a wonderful book. We have pace setting and bureaucratic. So once again, you guys can look at the PDFs on that. But I would say the next step in working with your leaders and leading up is you have to build these communication strategies. And it may be different with each person in the organization. This just takes time, right? So for me, I like to probably overshare updates. I like to celebrate everything, but you need to be proactive. You need to let people know. We talk about it in the MSP space all the time. We are proactive people. We should do this just naturally and want to give those solutions before someone comes to us with this is a problem, right? Because that's in our nature, I think. I think we all want to help. And it's a little bit of superhero syndrome. Like, let's celebrate that we're doing awesome together. And you have to adapt these communications to their style. So while I am a fluffy, friendly, happy, we can have an hour conversation if you want. If you send me an email, it needs to be 2 sentences or less. That's it. I don't want to read a whole bunch of stuff. And most of that is just my attention gets pulled elsewhere. So I have taken emails and dropped them into ChatGPT before and been like, summarize this into 2 sentences for me. And there have definitely been I've been oh gosh, people have overshared emails with me, and I literally will write back, "What do you need me to do on this?" Because I I don't know, right? And so people have learned from there that, "Hey, bold it or highlight it." Bold it or highlight it and say, "Tara, this is what I need from you." Or just write at the top, "Tara, this is just for your info. I don't actually need anything from you." Right? And then you have to frame your feedback constructively. So it's great to have solutions and it's great to want to have these conversations, but if you go in like a bull in a china shop all the time, it's not gonna go over well. And then it's just like the womp 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 in your ear. So I would suggest, having these really pertinent conversations, but going in not aggressively. I ask a lot of questions when I wanna find things out, right? So and that's where my feedback can kind of play in. I may already know some of the answers, but I ask the questions anyway to understand why something is the way it is or why somebody is thinking one way about something. And then you can have that constructive conversation and maybe help guide them into understanding something different about a topic that maybe they hadn't thought about. And then you need to provide support. So, filling knowledge gaps. Once again, we can't know everything. And it's just like we are not going to expect a technician to be an expert on every line of business software. We can't all be experts on everything. And so we rely on other people who have more information, right? So when I was COO of the MSP, Kayla was service manager, there were things I would get asked questions about, and I would be like, I don't know, but Kayla knows. Let me ask her. And that's okay. Saying I don't know is a huge, huge I mean, I think it's really important. I know some people think it's it's negative, or it makes them look weak or uninformed, but that's not there's a lot of power in saying I don't know and finding that knowledge and then being able to fill those gaps. Do your research, do your homework. Simplify complexities. Oh, my technical people. I don't know how many of you are out there. I am tossing y'all under the bus. You love to make things so complex. Oh, yes. Kayla's in here. Hi, Kayla. Let's make it simple, y'all. There is no reason to overcomplicate something that doesn't need to be complicated. Actionable, little, concise steps and recommendations for improvement. I actually have something on my desk. It's up there. It says, "How do you eat an elephant?" It says, "One bite at a time." You have to break things down, or you are going to be so overwhelmed. It's not even funny. Build credibility. We all know this, right? Trust is built on consistency, reliability, and discretion. Discretion is huge here. So if you are in a leadership role and you're in these meetings and you immediately walk out and just start gossiping with everybody, that's not going to build your credibility, right? We need to be able to have these conversations, have them in private, and move forward, um, and do it respectfully, right? Let me check my time. We are 21 minutes. Okay. So we have to foster mutual respect. All relationships are built on respect. End of story. If you don't have respect, your relationship is not going to last. Sorry, mic drop I guess I could drop my mic, but I'm not going to. We need to acknowledge and appreciate their role. They started these companies, or they've maybe been here longer than you, or maybe they just have more knowledge than you on a specific area. It doesn't mean you're not valuable, but they are just as valuable as you are. So we need to show appreciation for their responsibilities and their decisions, even when we may have a different perspective. Once a decision is made, we stick to it. You do need to be transparent and honest. So I'm a believer in feeling your feels, but I'm also a believer, and I think we'll get to this on another slide, in coming in with metrics and numbers and not just feels, because let's be honest, feelings are overwhelming. And I don't know about the tech people you guys know, but I don't know a lot of tech people who are like gushy and like super touchy feely. So be transparent and honest, but exactly. Feels are fun 5-minute limit. I can just move on to the next one because that is the perfect way to put it. Lead with empathy. These people, when you are running businesses and I mean, your livelihood is on the line. Yes, we all get a paycheck, but we don't know what's happened on like the back end for them to make this company happen. It could be loans, it could be, I mean, I don't know, whatever, their family life. We just don't know what they're putting on hold. So you just need to go into these conversations understanding that they still are a person on that end. Add value to their leadership. I love this slide because I think my little seagull is adorable. So bring solutions, not just problems. And I can thank Alex Farling. I know I am the fake Alex Farling today. Don't be a seagull. He gave me this term. And for those of you that don't know, it's somebody that swoops in, shits all over everything, and leaves, and just leaves a mess for everybody to clean up. We don't want to do that, right? I have a I have I mean, it was more so when it was in the MSP, because why am I not surprised Alex said that? Well, but it's a great one. I think it's very funny and it's very applicable because we all know people like that, right? So I have a rule. If somebody comes in my office, and since I'm still working in the MSP, I still talk to the Kaylas and the Michaels. If they have a problem, I need them to bring me a solution or two. And you can ask Kayla, I have definitely laid on the floor of my office and been like, I died. What do you do next? Don't say ask Brett or Darren. I'm a little bit dramatic. It's one of those things where you can have a problem, but you need to think through and not just ask somebody else for the answer, right? So they're inundated, and myself and everybody you probably work with, everybody is inundated with problems all day long, especially working in MSPs. The last thing you want is somebody to come dump another problem on your table. So come in, maybe have a solution. Or if you just need to vent, start it with, I just need to vent. That's it. I need 10 minutes. That's okay, right? You need to anticipate their needs. So I try to think one step ahead uh, when it comes to everything, and I probably overthink things. So this is somewhat to my detriment, but I do know it's appreciated because it means, once again, they're not having to be stressed about this topic. They're not feeling like they have to take ownership of it. And then you need to also encourage their growth because as managers and leaders and middle management and upper management, we are always so focused on growing the people that are our subordinates or whatever you want to call them that are below us, right? But we never really think about the upward. So share resources and feedback to help them improve because leadership is something that a lot of us struggle with. I mean, we've talked about it. Everybody has different leadership styles and sometimes we just need help outside. So this is a journey that all of us are on. And if you're going to say you're going to an event, say you're going to an MSP Geek Con, a Rejection Con, an IT Nation Connect, whatever, and you see something about leadership that you and both of you are going, offer to go together into that session and say, hey, I think this would be good for both of us to go to. Don't accuse them of being a shitty leader because that's not going to go over well. And from there, I would say manage with smart influence. I knew I would get to this. So bring evidence and data. Facts work better than feels, in my opinion. You can have all the feels you want, but unless I've got some sort of factual documentation behind it, some numbers, in our MSP, I will never forget when one of the first things I tackled when I took over service management was real-time time entry. And we all know what a headache this can be, right? So going in, people were like, "Oh, I'm so busy. I have all this stuff." And I was like, "Well, cool. You don't have your time in. So I can't actually prove that and justify hiring another tech." So for me to do this thing, I guess this is kind of transactional. So maybe I fell into it. I need to know and be able to prove that we need another technician. So I need you guys to enter your time. From there, you need to establish common goals. This once again has to align with everything overarching because we are always trying, we need to know that leader goal at the end of the day because everything needs to play into that. And every time I have a meeting with Anna and we talk about different things, I pull up those, well, we now have 5 overarching goals for the year. But I pull them up and I go, okay, what bucket does this fall in? Because we have to make sure we're playing into things that are actually going to move us forward, right? And positivity and teamwork makes the dream work. I have definitely, I mean, we all have bad days, right? I had a day where Brett and Darren sent me for a massage because they were like, clearly you're stressed out and you need to take a break. And I was like, am I being fired? They were like, no, we're sending you for a massage because clearly you need out of here for a little bit. But you have to try to maintain that constructive attitude. And there's healthy ways to do that. I mean, we all are gonna have bad days. We're all gonna feel like shit sometimes. And I make the joke, I need to vent more. You probably do. I actually had a that all the time. So I love that. That's awesome. So basically, I used to have a time when I was taking over service because I wasn't technical, right? So I had all these like questions and all these problems, and it felt like everyone hated me. I had a time once a week that was scheduled with my friend Natalie, didn't work at the same company, but was in the same role at a different company. And we talked for an hour. And I make the joke that I cried every Thursday at 2 p.m. for an hour to Natalie. And it wasn't really a joke because I definitely on some of those calls I cried because I just needed to vent. I felt so hated. And once you can kind of get the sad out, I talk about that a lot. You need to get the sad out. And sometimes we have to let ourselves be not okay. You can get back to that positive teamwork mentality so much faster. From there, we've got, oh, sorry, I'm not used to sitting at my desk all day. So from there, we have maintain perspective. Focus on that big picture. I know we've talked about this a few times, so I'm not going to beat it in your head anymore. Celebrate wins together. We This is something that drives me nuts about most industries, and it's definitely something that drives me nuts about this industry specifically. We are so quick to berate somebody or call out a problem or whatever, but we are not quick to celebrate when somebody does something really well. That should be built into your culture. I actually and it doesn't have to be expensive. That's the thing that people seem to forget is they're like, "Oh, I think Crewhoo and Smileback and things like that are great because you incentivize people with rewards or whatever." But I have literally a picture framed up here of a group chat that me, Brett, and Darren had last August or July. And basically, I was feeling kind of crappy about something. And they were like, no, you need to understand, like, you're doing great. And they basically, it's just a whole bunch of things where they were like, you did this and you did that. And I was like, maybe I should print this out and frame it. And I actually did. And some of the like my favorite things that Brett's ever done is he would walk in my office and he would literally write on a sticky note that was on my desk and post it on my screen. And it would say, you did a really good job with this thing. And it's even just those tiny things that are going to strengthen that partnership between you guys and make leading up and having those open conversations so good. And then reflect and adjust. So regularly evaluate how effective your approach is. And you like I told you that story with Brett. That approach that thing was wrong. Straight up wrong. And so I had to adjust next time I spoke to him and made sure that I knew I was talking to my timid turtle over there and that I couldn't walk in like a yelling at him about things. So just we're all human, we're all growing and we're all learning. Just remember that and you'll do fine. This is my last slide. So, who am I? I'm Tara Rummer Ashley. I am very active on LinkedIn. Sorry, not sorry. And if you see me on there, I post a lot. Community engagement director. I probably need to change that to my actual title that Kyle gave me, and business and people operations advisor for Immense Networks. So, thank you guys. And I'm sure Kyle's going to come back and we're going to talk questions if anyone's got any. I'm excited. And if you guys, I completely forgot at the beginning of this to say, if you donate, I'm matching donations up to $500. So please go donate. Personally, it's not EmiBot matching, it's me. So
No, yes, AmyBot's already done a fantastic donation for those of you who don't know. I guess I'll let the cat out of the bag. Part of sponsoring Rejection Con required actual donations to World Tech Fund. So a little bit awkward. Some vendors were kind of like, ooh, that's weird. And we were like, our middle
I
name's
think it's
weird,
great.
right?
I
So I
like
guess
why?
questions. Do we have any questions for Tara? Great conversation. Uh, you did fantastic, by the way. I kept trying to make you laugh, and you did, and it was
Oh my God.
fun.
It was so distracting. My ADD right there. I was like, oh no, I have to like look at these things now.
And so here's a question for you. So, as someone that's also a turnaround person, I've had to turn around MSPs. I've been in your shoes.
Mhm.
When you're in a position to manage up, there is a vulnerability and force that is going to be pushed back on you for owners that are not used to this. Walk me through a
Mhm.
little bit on how you typically handle those scenarios.
So it's funny because typically when I have to have those hard conversations, I get out of the office, and if I can meet them physically, that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to make it much more casual. So especially with Darren or even Brett, I've shown up at their house because we now have that relationship. And I mean, it took a while to get there, but we fostered it. And if I need to have a serious conversation, I'll either show up at their house and be like, hey, let's just chat for a few. And they'll know I'm coming over. Like I'll let them know ahead of time. Or I'll be like, hey, let's go get a beer and let's just go locally and just chat and get out of the formality of being in an office setting because it's like something immediately is this is so formal and so scary. I know that our techs even leading other people. If you were called into our conference room for a meeting, it could have been the best meeting in the world. Immediately they freaked out.
Yeah.
So just making that room and that space and finding somewhere they're comfortable with.
Well, I think there's also a level of confidence, right? I mean, when you're
Yeah.
talking about this, there's going to be a point where your position is going to be seen as right, wrong, or right and I don't like it and don't want to learn it. And you know exactly what I mean.
I do.
And for the people that are it, Todd Kane and I talked about this a bit, where as especially for you service managers in the audience or aspiring leaders, is being a leader is uncomfortable the majority of the time. And I love your talk about this because you're bringing in this human element. It's not binary. It's right. It's not um, close the ticket, open the ticket. The customer has completed in the SLA or they haven't. They're always going to complain about the stuff that falls in the gray area. And when
Yep.
you're working with the owner, Owners only operate in the gray because I can tell you firsthand, we are unemployable. We are the nonconformists. And it's your job as the person managing up to bring the conformity to your MSP that will allow
Mhm.
that nonconformist passion to scale.
So, and it's funny, somebody just said it's very lonely. It is very lonely. But I had a mentor a few years ago, and I'll never forget. I was having a meltdown one day on the phone with her, and I was frustrated because I wanted somebody to give me direction. And she owned an MSP, and she's like, that is not going to be Brett and Darren. She's like, you have to give them the direction. So you're going to have to walk in with your plan and say yes or no. She's like, so that helped me kind of learn from this that there's a lot of things that maybe owners can't do, and that's even as leaders in general, we don't have all the answers. So, what am I gonna do if somebody comes to me with a question? I'm gonna figure out an answer. It might not be right, but somebody else can do that too, and I'd rather them give me it and have them thinking on their own, right?
Well, in
It's
in similar fashion, right, Tara, do you eat the whole shrimp tail or does it just throw the shell away?
Oh my god, Roddy, you are so Southern. So I told Roddy he was probably a monster and ate the entire crawfish, and we've got Kayla in here, so she can probably comment on how this is a monster thing to do. But no, I do not eat the tails of any crustacean. But I love that question. Thank you, Roddy.
But going like, keeping this back on pace though, right? Like, now that we're completely out of the mindset of the conversation, you can't always manage up. There's going to be a point where
Yeah.
you are going to get stuck in a rut and you are going to have to, pivot, let's say, because there's just something that the owner won't flex on, the customer won't flex on, or just reality. You can't move a mountain, so you're gonna have to go around that mountain.
Mhm.
This brings up the conversation of resilience, like one of my other favorite words in leadership. So for I guess for you, what's a moment that you can think of? I'm gonna put you on the spot where you weren't able to get what you wanted, but you were able still able to achieve the result you wanted by going around the mountain.
Oh god, here we go. I wanted to fire somebody. And that was the hard boundary I didn't realize was there. And I didn't fire said person, obviously. We made some changes and put that person under somebody else. They did not want to work with me. And eventually the guys came around. I mean, it was 3 years too late, that this person probably should have gone before then. But what I ended up doing is I built the rest of the team. We moved this person from me, and I proved in that process that maybe we didn't need that person on this team. And then when they finally did leave, our whole team thanked us. So we built the team, we built the processes, everyone else fell in place, and that worked out really well. Right. So it wasn't a hill I could die on at that point though. But there have been hills I've definitely died on, I would say, where it's just like this because I can be unmoving on things too. And sometimes, I mean, it takes a long time to get there, but sometimes you have to have that really hard conversation with somebody and be like, I understand where you're coming from. Have you thought about it this way? And try to bring them over to your side with that.
There's a fantastic book, easy to read. It's more from a sales angle, but I like ops people to read it. It's called Verbal Judo.
Mm,
There's a common facilitation exercise where you have two people put their hands against each other and lean. And what you're trying to demonstrate is the human nature is always in defense mode, right? Fight or flight, it's survival. So anytime you make somebody uncomfortable and you push on them, they're pushing back on you.
yep.
So you have to put yourself in a position to where you do not push, but you receive and you take that energy and then, right, use it to your advantage. Let's be quite honest what this is. Some might call it manipulation, some might call it strategy, some might call it just getting the job done.
I think some of it is just I hate the word manipulation, but it's just understanding people and motives, right? And that's what it is. We have to understand where these other people are coming from, or none of these conversations are going to go well.
No.
Like every one of these, as an owner, if somebody came in with you and was like, I don't know, came in talking, you talk about money and you talk about gross margin. What if they came in and they were just didn't really know what they were talking about, but they were bullshitting and acted like they did, and you were like, no, like like,
I
it's
I
not
I
gonna
can already
go
think of the
well.
3 sales guys that were really good on my team that did that.
Yeah.
It was a simple thing of prove it. Are you willing to put your job on the line for this? And you test their confidence a little bit.
Yeah.
Um,
We've got
but
a lot of people chatting in the chat too. Just throwing that out
yeah,
there.
and sorry, I'm getting so into this conversation. So Roddy says no verbal arm bars. Got it. Takes no. I don't know. I would do verbal arm bars all day long.
Go to a
It's
coffee shop
fantastic.
or a cafe. Yep. Somewhere people are comfortable, honestly, get
Well,
out.
that's actually an interesting conversation. Why do you think getting outside of that office or getting into a different environment made them more receptive to what you wanted to chat about?
I mean, it's the same concept when I take people to, like, dinners and lunches. You just learn so much about people, and it's just I don't know what it is with the formality of an office. It's we have the same thing in peer groups. I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but I remember the first time I went to a peer group, everybody acted like everything was great and it was rainbows and kittens all over. And the second you got them to a bar and one drink in them, everyone's like, "Oh, my hair's on fire and everything sucks." It's like you just remove the formality of the meeting or any of that where people feel like they have to be on. It's disarming, right? You're just trying to make people comfortable in a situation so you can have honest conversations.
Well, and let's think about this from I'll go back to psychology and a little bit of biology. We're removing them from their domain, right? They
Yeah.
don't have to protect that domain. You're removing the it's kind of macho in a way, but it's that instinctual thing of this is my house and I need to protect it. If you remove them, dogs are
Yep.
the same way. If you Why do people go to dog parks? Well, because the dog is not in their domain that they need to protect. I have a little Boston Terrier. Literally, he does it the second he sees another dog, he sees red. Like the guy
Mhm.
just attacks. Bring him to a dog park. He's like, "What's up, guys?"
Yep. That's exactly how my dog is too. He's reactive. But Zoe even mentioned in here, it removes the power dynamic, really.
Yeah.
It
Well,
kind
that's
of
what it
squashes
is.
that, right? You're
The
not
power
in my
dynamic is I
office.
have to be alpha.
Yeah. You're
So
evening the playing field, really. So,
you're evening the playing field, you're putting them in a different spot. They go from boss to just another person at the bar.
yep.
Anywho, fantastic conversation. Thank you so much, Tara. This was great. Everyone in
Absolutely.
the audience, thank you for contributing. Thank you for allowing me to put it up on screen and make Tara laugh. I had a lot of fun with that. But we do have a 5-minute break before our keynote, everybody. So let's go ahead, refresh our drinks, find that snack bar that Wes promised me that there is that I still can't find. And now I'm really hungry. And yeah, thank you again.
Bye, guys.